Could this be the hardest conversation that you've ever had to have? I'm not sure, but let's talk about it. Hey Driven Mofos, welcome back to another episode of The Underestimated Entrepreneur. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Michael Mojo. I'm the owner of Mojo Human Performance Institute. We focus on business, mindset, and lifestyle hacking for Driven Mofos. The reason why I do these episodes is because most people waste their life and I just don't want you to be one of them. So let's talk today about the hardest conversation you're probably ever going to have. And this is something that I think most people try to avoid as much as they can. And that conversation is the conversation they have with themselves consistently around the results that they may or may not be getting in life, around what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, and how to navigate this conversation, especially if you're a high performer or a driven mofo. So what I know is that after working with a lot of people and even, working through a lot of my own shit, you do have to have some pretty tough conversations with yourself. And first of all, in order to change anything, you have to become self-aware. Now, self-awareness is something that most people lack, whether it's by choice or whether it's just because they're not brought up to be aware, or maybe the people around them aren't aware and they just fit into that environment. I'm not really too sure. But what I do know is that so many people out there just lack that self-awareness. They'll complain and blame and justify and go around in circles and nothing really changes, and 10 years down the track, nothing's changed and they just become more angry, more frustrated, more stressed out. So I'm not really too sure, whether most people want to change or most people want to grow. I don't know, because I work with a very select group of the market, which are people that just want to grow. And, I've worked with tens of thousands of people, but with 7 billion people on the planet, there's a big gap there between, meeting everybody. So the tough conversation really is looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, am I proud of what I've achieved up to date? And also, will I be proud of the achievements that I've got in the next 10 years if I stay on the same path, with the same habits, in the same trajectory? If not, it's time to change. And I think a lot of people don't really like to have that conversation because it does mean change. And change can be difficult, it can be scary. I know it takes a lot of courage to want to change. It can take a lot of courage to want to better yourself. And that's why I love the community that we have, because most people look in the mirror and say, I'm not where I want to be. And I've worked with people that are hit rock bottom, got straight out of jail, or we had a guy last year who got straight out of jail and came to Thrive Time in a couple of weeks. Now that was pretty fucking impressive. And when I spoke to him, I said, it takes a lot of courage to do that, because most people just go back to doing what they've always done. I had one of our community members is an amazing person who's probably one of the most inspiring people I've come across. I remember sitting down with her and she said, do you mind if I bring my son in? There's actually a video on my YouTube page about this. She said, do you mind if I bring my son in for a chat? She asked my team, actually, do you mind if I bring my son in after the event, because I want to have a chat with Michael the following day? And so I was in at about 11 o'clock in the morning back to the events venue, and I had a couple of meetings and stuff. And she came in, and when she came in, she was with her son, Jake, and Jake has quadriplegic cerebral palsy. And, sitting there and talking to her whole life had fallen apart. There was so many problems and issues in her life. You probably couldn't end up with a worse life, really, if you tried. Partner broken up. They were using drugs, almost lost their family home through drug abuse, drug use. The business that they had crashed. And she's the full-time carer for a son that has, quadriplegic cerebral palsy and is, I think at the time, like 4 or 5 years of age, who needs full-time care. And so her whole life had fallen apart and she had nothing. She was about to lose her house. And I remember sitting there talking to her and I said, what do you want to do? And she said, Michael, I'll do anything. You tell me what to do, because I don't know. And I said, if I were you, I'd come to Thrive Time. And she said, Michael, I'll sell every last fucking thing that I have and I'll be there. And she was in that room. And since then, her whole life has taken off. It's completely changed. The life that she has now is completely different from where she was when I first met her. And this is, I guess, why it pisses me off sometimes on the phone, because I have all these motherfuckers out there that are like, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, yet they drive a fucking BMW, or they've got a Louis Vuitton handbag and shit like that. And I always remember back to Karina sitting there, who had pretty much lost everything and said, I will sell every last thing that I have and I'll be there, because she had the self-awareness enough to say, I need to change, and something has to change now. I can't keep waiting because I'm not on the path. I'm not going in the direction that I want. And if I keep doing the same things that I've always done with the same thinking that I've had, I'm going to end up in the same position. And so she is someone who is one of my greatest inspirations because of that moment. It showed me that no matter where someone is, they can always make better choices and change. And they can always find a way. And she did. Whereas the majority that, like I said, the motherfuckers that I speak to on the phone that are, their life's shit, or their life's not heading in the right direction, or they're not getting the results that they want, they've always got a fucking excuse. 1 out of 20 people, might be one who says, I'll do something different. But the majority of people are like, I'll try and figure it out myself. Yeah, they've been trying to figure it out themselves for 20 years, 30 years. They've read all the fucking books. They've done everything else apart from the thing that works. So, self-awareness is really that important and critical step of asking the right questions about your life, and that is super tough. Then you have to have that conversation with yourself, and again, asking the right questions. Am I heading in the right direction? If I keep on with the same habits, I'm always going to keep making those same habits or moving in that same direction. A lot of people keep making the same decisions, so their decision-making strategy is to stall. I'll think about it tomorrow, I'll do it next week, but that's the same stall that they've had for so long that stopped them from getting the results. So sitting down and having that tough conversation with yourself and writing a journal and saying, asking yourself those questions and then jotting down the answers can be one of the best conversations that you've ever had with yourself, but also one of the toughest. And it's probably the one that most people avoid. And to be honest, most people are pretty predictable, and they're predictable because they keep repeating the same habits. They have the same thoughts. They have the same emotions over and over and over again. They keep trying to convince themselves that one day something's going to change, and it never will because they don't change. They keep blaming the world around them or the economic cycle or the people around them or their past and their childhood and the way that they were brought up. And so they hold on to this victim mentality, and it's not them, it's everybody else. And because of that, nothing ever changes. So from here, the best thing that you can do is have that conversation, look in the mirror tonight or today and ask yourself, are you heading in the direction that you want to head? And are things moving in the right direction? If not, it's time to change. And then again, ask yourself better questions to start making those changes. It can be the best conversation you have, the toughest conversation you have, the worst conversation you have, because there could be volatilities inside your own head that sort of like that good cop, bad cop, or the good devil, angel inside your head that are fighting off against each other. And that is super common. But if you don't have that conversation with yourself, nothing will ever change. And I just find a journal is a great way where you can just write stuff down. I don't think you should buy a dear journal. It's just essentially a bit of pad paper, and you write down questions and then answer them to yourself, and then write down questions and answer them to yourself. But it's all documented so you can get stuff out of your head instead of keeping it in there. And then from there, you can analyze it and make the changes that you need to. So go and do that, task-driven mofos. Now, before we wrap up, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has subscribed, reviewed our podcast. Also, there's been a fair few of you that have given us ratings on iTunes or Apple and Spotify, which is really cool. So if you're one of those people who have given us a 5-star rating, you guys and girls out there absolutely fucking rock. And if you're one of those people who have written an absolute sick review on the Apple iPod or what's it called, the Apple app for podcasts, thank you so much. And for those of you who are sharing with your friends, family, and all those people as well, I really do appreciate it. Also, if you haven't subscribed to our Facebook group, it's just go to Facebook, type in the search bar Driven Mofo Business Hacks, and it will come up with our group. Essentially, it's Monday to Friday. We drop content in there that helps every day. Yeah, we got some really cool stuff in there. You can go check it out anyway. Up the top, it'll tell you what days are what. You can subscribe to that group as well, join the group, and be part of the community in there. But like I said, it's for driven mofos only, and especially for business owners. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you in the group. The reason why I do this is that most people waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them. Never underestimate the dream, driven mofos.